92.7 WQLZ, the Green Room, and we've been trying to hit up a whole bunch of interviews and stuff to start this year. We were talking with Brady. He is the drummer from a band called Saturn's Downfall, a band that we have had on the Art Spotlight previously, a band that you can hear on New on Q on Saturday nights with Chasing Gravity, and a band that's got a brand new song out today. And looking forward to chatting about that one. How you doing, sir?
Dude, I'm doing fantastic, man. Thank you so much for asking. And like I said earlier, before we started recording, it's a pleasure to be sitting here chatting with you again. It's been a little while, so thanks for having me.
It has been, and I know you came on with me years ago. I was doing my own podcast in between jobs, and it's I had the chance to have you with Sixth Century on in Wausau when I was working there, and a chance to connect and share that and be able to now to share this new project. But we talked about, you're in Pennsylvania, you're getting the weather that we're going to be getting with the cold weather and the snow, and nobody in my building is happy about this. None of the people in the station are thrilled, but you are hoping for as much snow as possible this weekend.
That is correct, man. And let's hope it works out, because I guess I'll just spill the beans, but dudes and bands have to report for jury duty too. So hopefully it snows enough that it just gets canceled and get excused. Fingers crossed. Maybe I shouldn't even be saying this because I might jinx myself, but here we are. So let's see what happens.
I know. You've never done jury duty before, right?
Never done it, dude. This is my first time, and actually my dad had gotten called to do it like 2 years ago. So he had to show up for like 3 days. First day was like, come till noon. You think you're out, you're good, and then they, text you, call you later that night, and you're like, hey, report back tomorrow. And I hear it's a lot of just sitting and watching old movies, and that's about it. And chit-chatting with people if you can to pass time, man. So sounds a little inconvenient, but hey, it's our right to do so, and we have to do it. So
yeah,
that's all right.
Well, I'm hoping for the snow for you as well, so you can, continue to do band things. You mentioned your dad. Your dad did jury duty, and when you had reached out to me with the new band in Saturn's Downfall, and I know you'd shared too a bunch of stuff on, you and I are friends on Facebook, and you and your dad are rocking out. You're doing some covers for things on drums. Your dad's with you on some of the videos you posted as well. And all of a sudden you're like, yeah, dude, now my dad is in a band with me. So like, dude, like being able to have your dad in a band with you, kind of like long time coming, and just kind of the feelings of having him with you in this new project.
Sure, man. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, because when I started out, of course, like most of us guys, we kind of started out in like a high school band. And I'm going to go back a little bit here. That was something I kind of was like elevating quickly on, that he had noticed. So actually, we kind of been in and out of bands with each other since I was like 16 when I started drumming. So since when the high school band thing wasn't working out, he kind of seen my progress as a drummer, and I kind of got thrown into the wolves with him and his band, which, they were definitely hitting the local and regional circuit. And I was pretty much playing in bars starting at 16. And that's kind of where I learned a lot and got started. And by like 17, I was getting us shows opening up for, bands from Adrenaline Mob to Buck Cherry to Saving Abel. So I was really kind of getting thrown in there really quickly with my pops, because he's been doing it for such a long time. So we had taken a couple years, probably, oh my goodness, almost a decade now since we haven't played in a band together. So this is the first time, kind of, once I left Sixth Century, I kind of took a moment. I was like, hey, I got to focus on myself, do my thing. And me and him had a bunch of original music we just kind of been recording instrumentally for the last couple of years. And it kind of got to a point of, I was like, you know what, man, like I just learned so much stuff throughout the years. I haven't really fully like started a band where I kind of got to drive the ship. You know what I mean? I was like, I just have too much fire in me not to not do that. And I've been in bands the last couple of years of where I just kind of been like the hired gun kind of situation. Is someone else's vision and stuff, which I was always 120% behind. But after all these years, what I learned and stuff, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to form the best band that I possibly can with the right people, with the right intentions. And that's really where my dad follows in place. You know what I mean? He has wisdom, he has knowledge from that stuff, and a lot of the things I've learned along the way. And the two other guys that we brought on board, my singer Colby, I actually went to high school with Colby, and we were in a touring band together. Oh my goodness. Just about almost a decade ago. And we were out with like Lacuna Coil and Bad Omens, which
nice.
is, kind of really, really small. Like, and we experienced a lot, that's just another team player. Like, he's in a good place. And that was another person. I was like, hey, he's the most talented person I know from singer, songwriter. And just everything. I was like, let's form this ultimate trio band. And it kind of started with that. And of course, I'm sure you've seen we do have a bassist that's kind of getting into the mix too. So we just wanted to kind of create something where we, take everything we've all learned throughout the years and just kind of no drama, no BS, just let's have fun, but like let's make stuff that we want to make and that people are going to enjoy too. And that's kind of what this is. So
I don't know. What's it been like? And you're on, which is cool. We've had a couple bands this year. We've talked to Aranda, who's obviously been doing it for a long time. We had a band called Freeze Machine, which is just like a new project getting up and running. And asked Jordan, who runs that band, kind of what's been like to hone in on the sound, discover the sound. So for you, I know you guys have it's 4 singles out, I believe. I believe I'm right on the number on that with 4. So what's it been like discovering your sound for Saturn's Downfall, putting it together, and just kind of finding your way of like, this is kind of what we want to be, and maybe testing some different things out?
certainly, man, that's a great question. So it kind of goes back on that, right? Like me and my dad were just kind of been writing the instrumental stuff for the last couple of years. And it was originally supposed to just be an original project under our last name before we decided to do the Saturn's Downfall thing. But it kind of got to that moment, like I said, it was like, hey, like we have too much good stuff here. Like we have the right people that we know to really make this thing be huge. So that kind of falls into finding the sound, right? So it kind of started with, my dad's kind of background with like a little bit of classic rock, you know what I mean? Or a little bit early 2000s rock, which I grew up on and stuff. So I think that was kind of the basis of kind of getting started where to start with the band sound. And then once Colby kind of got involved, it's pretty cool because that's where him and my dad can really relate because they both really love classic rock, like bands like Yes and stuff like that, Rush. I mean, all these classic bands. So that kind of falls into play there with like the melodic kind of hooks of guitars and vocals and things like that. But also Colby relates with me and being really up on the modern rock sound. And of course, like bands like 3 Days Grace, Breaking Benjamin, to modern bands that we love today. And that, I think once he kind of got involved, like my dad kind of got us started with the sound that him and I was kind of putting like 2 different generations of music together. That's really where it started. And then when Colby kind of got involved, he kind of has a mix of both, which is very unique. And that's where we all kind of clicked. So I think the first songs like Bury the Beast and Lost in the Echoes were kind of really good starting points of kind of the mix of the classic rock, the modern. But as Colby kind of got more involved into the songwriting sense of it, we just kind of bloomed into being the icing on the cake with him in it to creating this new but nostalgic kind of sounding thing that may sound familiar, but it sounds fresh. Mm-hmm. So I think the band's sound kind of came together very quickly once Colby really got involved in it. But that's really kind of how it started because, I mean, a lot of bands, it takes them, I mean, even from my experience, a couple of years to really figure out what your sound may be. And I think we've really kind of, I would say with the release that came out today and Chasing Gravity, like that's really the band's lane. And we have singles to release for the next month for the rest of the year. So we have so much music that's already in that lane. We already know our sound, I think. It's always developing, but we know the core, if that makes sense. So yeah. I think we honed it in pretty quickly. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, you've got the core and one of the things I know, because you've sent me some stuff as well to kind of get into and listen to early and let you know kind of what I think from some of it. And I know, like you mentioned, like Bury the Beast, it's really, really hard hitting, and Chasing Gravity's on there right now. It's got a little bit of a different feel to it and Ready to Go. I told you, I was like, this one's like way more upbeat. So like you've got a nice eclectic sound out there for the singles you've done so far. So what do you want to share about the track, Ready to Go? And I listened to it again today. I was trying to listen to these before we sit down again, so it's fresh in my mind. I love the way the song ends. Like, it's very upbeat, but like when it really hits it at the end, I'm a big fan of that. So what do you want our listeners to know about the track?
Sure, man. I'm glad you asked because that track is interesting because, we felt, of course, all the ones, I guess it's kind of cliche to say, like, we know the next following ones are better than the last. Like, we have so much of a catalog that the recordings are getting better because we do everything in-house. We mix, record, produce, write, master. We do everything ourselves. I do it right here in my house, and Colby does it at his house. So we're doing everything completely on our own terms. But I mean, yeah, with that song, it's interesting because we knew that one's definitely was kind of, it's interesting. It has a little bit of prog rock in it, but it's very like commercial. It kind of hits like Fall Out Boy hooks with like Skillet energy. You know what I mean? It's a very interesting package deal. Not saying it sounds like that, but it kind of has that atmosphere really grabbing. We felt with this track. It's very commercial. It's very wide. I think you could also maybe hear it a little bit in pop radio or something, but you can hear it on heavy metal radio because, like you said, at the end of that song, there's a little bit of flashy double bass. There's cool big rock crash-ending hits and stuff like that. I mean, we're just trying to do stuff, of course, where we're taking a risk. We're getting risky with it. You know what I mean? I think people play too safe to the formula. And we, of course, will play to that game, the gallery, but in the way we want to do it. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how that song kind of came together. And it's interesting because that song is actually, if you listen to the lyrics, are pretty dark. It sounds like a groovy song. Yeah. It's very upbeat. It's more of the faster ones, but the lyrical stuff is that's coming from a perspective. Hopefully, Colby wouldn't mind. We've kind of elaborated on it a little bit, but that's from a past partner relationship that he had with somebody that had a very hard issue with pill addiction, and watching that person slowly, kind of check out, if that makes sense. That's what that song's about, and it's crazy because it's such a contrast, but it's such a deep and meaningful experience that he kind of went through and was able to express that in this song. So it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I know you mentioned it being dark, and sometimes bands are like, it's a dark subject matter and it's a really, really heavy hitting song. So like, did you guys go into this being like, it's a dark lyrically, but like we need it to be more upbeat, or is it just kind of came out that way?
It's so crazy, man. It just came out that way. Yeah. And it was interesting because when we were like tracking it and stuff, I really didn't pick up on it at first. Like the lyrics, like I knew they were good and they just sound so groovy. Like I didn't really dive in just yet to like really listen to the lyrics. And when I had asked Colby, he's like, hey man, like I can tell this is coming from which a lot of our music is, where he writes he's been through a lot. Since we were in a band last together a decade ago. So I know he has a lot to express, from personal situations to experiences like that with other people and stuff. But it was just one of those things. It just kind of made sense and just went with the flow of like, hey, this is naturally going this way. Let's just ride with it and see what happens. And I guess that's where it's kind of comes into being a little taking a risk, you know what I mean? Doing those kinds of things. So
you mentioned there's a whole lot of music. We're going to get this one on the air eventually. And, Chasing Gravity still on new on queue for a little bit. You got a bunch of music on the way. Is this going to be kind of a singles thing? Is it eventually like, we'll maybe put them all on an album at some point? Or what do you guys kind of want to do with the collection of music that you've got so far? And what's still to come here this year?
That's awesome. I'm so glad you asked that. Thank you. Because we've been talking about how we have a crazy release plan. And I kind of mentioned, the idea is to release, a new single every quite a few weeks, you know what I mean? That's the goal, and we have enough music to do it for the rest of the year. So, of course, singles is the big rollout plan that a lot of people do nowadays, but, the benefit for us is us being able to do this on our own, which is great. So we can kind of hammer out these songs, not in a quantity way, but still do it in a quality way. We're definitely making sure that, like, hey, we're nailing this down, making sure it's good before it even hits people's ears. But actually, in the game plan is this is all going to end up on an album. So we plan on releasing a full-length album with 10 songs on it. So we're just going to hammer quite a few more singles out there. We may save one or two so no one hears it that is with the album. So it's almost like a waterfall effect, and then they'll collectively be together on an album. So we actually already have the album title name, which is great. We already have the artwork and everything ready to go. So no pun intended, ready to go. It's all in the works. So we're pretty excited, man, because that's the beauty of being able to do this stuff ourselves. You know what I mean? We can just keep staying consistent and just keep throwing those punches. And the idea of this was too, is like, let's just keep leveling up every single song and just kind of make them undeniable as best as we can. You know what I mean? That we feel that we're confident, like, wow, like, usually for myself, I like listening to the music, not being in the band. I like listening to it as a fan perspective. And when I disconnect that way for a little while and revisit it like that, I'm like, wow, this is it's pretty crazy, man. I never really quite felt this way with music I ever got to write before. That's for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Any plans to play some shows coming up? Again, I know the project's pretty new and everything, getting out there playing locally, doing anything kind of in that area?
Well, There's I can't say too much, but I think
Okay.
there's a couple things. Yeah, there's a couple things in the works for the summer that just kind of telling myself, hey, if it works out, pretty much where we're at is we're getting ready to start rehearsal. Well, we kind of pretty much in the ballpark to start rehearsing because the goal is to obviously bring the tightest and best live set that we possibly can. Because for myself and the other guys, we've always said, you kind of get in a band, you get excited, you kind of rush, put it together, and you start going out and play. It's a little premature. So this time we want to make sure that we're delivering. We already have our set dialed in for opening slots for it to be set up properly for 5 songs. But the intro track, we kind of already have it dialed in on which songs we're doing, and it's just pretty much hammering it out until we're sick of it. You know what I mean? So it's just ready to rock. And when we come out this summer, which there's a few things in the talks of some pretty cool stuff. That's all I'll say. But we're definitely planning to play this summer, so it's gonna be pretty cool.
So I know you mentioned, dude, you guys are doing so much yourself, and I've asked bands this in the past. A lot of them that are independent, it's expensive to be an independent band. The nice thing is you get the creativity, you get the creative, avenues of where you want to go. But a lot of times you're probably either paying out of pocket for somebody to mix, record, master, do all that stuff, or you learn to do the skills yourself. So what's it been like for you to pick up all these skills? You guys do everything in house. Like how just for people that are maybe listening that are wondering how to get these skills and attain them, like just how big has it been for you guys as a band to be able to do all of this in-house and take care of it?
Sure, dude. Another great question. Thank you. That's so interesting because if you can do it yourself, if you can learn the things, and it takes years, you know what I mean? Like I said, it took years of me over COVID. That's when I decided to get my PC and start learning how to record just for fun. And I didn't realize how much I was learning and diving into it for hours on end every day, that it would really pay off to this moment, especially teaming up with Colby, because our singer Colby, I mean, I truly mean it. He would laugh, but I would say you're a genius, man, because he's so good with Pro Tools and songwriting and melody hooks. Like he's a producer. He's just like, he's classically trained on piano and stuff like that. He has such a rich background in music. I mean, he's taking guitar lessons from Trey Alexandria, which was named like best guitar player in the world in 2006. Like he's learned from the best, and everything he's naturally done. Like he's a monster when it comes to this stuff. And us being able to team up together, I would say he's still far light years ahead of me with the recording and stuff. But like the stuff I've learned the last 5 years or so, and then being able to team up and just kind of catch up a bit and just kind of put it together, 2 brains, and being able to learn those kind of things and take the time to do it and be patient with it. It's a huge benefit and outcome, because that's one thing I will mention is when I decided to launch Saturn's Downfall, my biggest worry was because the last band I was in, we shot the big budget music videos. I took the band to some guys I knew for a couple of years that are like the top notch on the East Coast, and with recordings and stuff, and people expect polish. There's a standard, especially if you're doing commercial modern rock. And I was a little nervous because I know people had a high expectation, and where I had taken that last band on social media and stuff and the marketing and all that stuff, I know a lot of people were expecting something big. So I knew this had to deliver, and I was taking a chance at doing it ourselves, because we didn't go to a studio and spend $1,200 per song, and which is great. And if you have the budget, I mean, I'm not knocking that at all, but I was like, I fully believe that what I learned over the last couple of years and where Colby is, that we could team up and make something that would stand up to a lot of these recordings. And I think what proved it for me which was right out of the gate, was Bury the Beast. Now, of course, I go back and hear that song, and I'm sure the other guys will agree. There's stuff we would change, and we know we can make it sound better and make changes of structure and everything and quality. But what sold it for me was Pandora, for instance, editorial playlisting. I mean, that stuff's hard to get on, and that song got picked up right away. And that's something you can't pay for that. You know what I mean? So if people at Pandora are putting it on an editorial playlist with 8 million listeners with all the other rock bands that you love, like that kind of told me, okay, like we can play this game. We can be in this thing with the rest of the bands that we love. So that was kind of the start of it for me to realize, like, hey, we can do this. So never doubt yourself. If you have those kind of skills and you can really hone it in, go for it, because you might surprise yourself. And I think we definitely have done that. And that's more than just that, just the oh my gosh, all the editorial playlisting. We had a reel hit like 1.1 million views a couple weeks ago with Chasing Gravity, and this is stuff we're doing it out of our house.
That's
you know
awesome.
what I mean? So you know what I mean? We're putting a lot of work into it, but like it will pay off. It's that kind of put proof in the pudding. Like you can do it. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely proud of what we created so far, and it's only getting better. So.
Awesome. And I know there's more, like you said, there's plenty more on the way. And Brady, I can't remember if when we did podcast years ago, if I asked you this or not, but some of the, and it's cool because you guys, you talk about the early 2000s stuff. That's where you're from. That's a lot of what late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of what I grew up with, and the new metal era and Linkin Park, all these bands exploding. So some of your favorite No Skip albums. I can't remember if we talked about this or not years ago. It was a long time ago. So it'll refresh my memory as well. But some of your favorite No Skip, favorite complete albums.
Sure. Alien Ant Farm Anthology, I think it is. That album just has so many bangers front to back. I mean, that's always going to be in my top 5. I've always really loved CKY. I would say Escape from Hellview is incredible front to back album. Man, I'm trying to think. There's so many. I mean, there's quite a few Papa Roach albums that I love. I'm a sucker for Papa Roach. So, I mean, their classic albums, Godsmack, you know what I mean? Some of the earlier stuff. I mean, I like the new stuff, When Legends Rise. I mean, that whole album front to back for me is incredible. But yeah, I mean, there's so many bands. But yeah, I would put quite a few of those up there for me. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch because, yeah, I'm sure you get the same way. It's like when you get asked those questions, you kind of forget what you would say because you know. So later I'll be like, oh my gosh, I forgot to say that one album by that one band. But so much stuff, man. There's so much.
Dude, it always happens. And again, man, Chasing Gravity, we're going to have it on New on Q a little bit longer, ready to go. We'll have it here sometime next couple weeks on QLZ. Probably in our spotlight is what we'll do with it. And then we're going to follow you guys. Obviously, Saturn's Downfall. You're starting brand new. Where can everybody follow you guys? Socials, website. Go ahead. Where can everybody find you?
Sure, man. It's all Saturn's Downfall Official. So, I mean, if you type in Facebook /Saturn's Downfall Official, same with the handle for Instagram. We're on TikTok, YouTube. But I would say Google, man. If you want to find us, just search Google Saturn's Downfall. You'll find all of our music, all of our social media, or any kind of information you want to find out in the background of the band and the lineup and stuff like that. So we're everywhere.
Awesome. Well, cool. Brady, looking forward to more, man. Looking forward to getting you guys on, and dude, appreciate your time.
Oh, dude, thank you so much for your time. And again, it's a pleasure speaking with you. And thank you so much for everything you do for bands like us, man. We appreciate it.